It's 3 in the morning, you just woke up, no alarm, no reason. Your heart is beating faster, you're lying in the dark, and without even meaning to, you're listening to the silence, to a creak in the wall, to nothing. A minute later, your hand is already reaching for your phone. Not to check the time, just to throw a little light into the room and push the dark back. Outside your bedroom, there's a locked door. Beyond it, a city where for 1,000 miles in every direction, there isn't a single animal that wants to eat you. You are the safest human being who has ever lived on this planet. Now picture your ancestor, 200,000 years ago. He's sleeping on the ground. 20 feet away, in the dark, a leopard is pacing. No walls, no lock. His only weapon is a sharp rock. And here's the strange part. He slept more soundly than you do, even though he had every reason to lie awake shaking until dawn. And you have none. It's not about courage. The difference is that he knew how to manage that fear. He had tools. You inherited the fear itself and lost everything that used to treat it. So here's what we're going to take apart today. Why does your body still treat darkness like a threat when there's nothing out there anymore? What were ancient humans actually afraid of? And what did they build to survive it? And why do all those ancient tools against fear, fire, the warmth of another body beside you, sound, a light half sleep, still run inside you every single night? Only now under different names: anxiety, insomnia, the habit of falling asleep with the TV on, and the most personal question of all. If you've ever lain awake at 3 in the morning with your heart pounding, sure that something is wrong with you, stay with me, because what's happening to you is far older than you are, and it isn't a malfunction at all. To understand the alarm that wakes you at night, you first have to understand what it was built to guard against. And it was built against the oldest fear our species has ever known. By day, humans were a force. We hunted in groups, we made tools, we were the most dangerous thing around. But every evening, the moment the sun went down, that whole hierarchy flipped. It comes down to the eyes. Ours are nearly useless in the dark, while the animals that hunted us could see just fine. Leopards, hyenas, cave lions, saber-toothed cats. No claws, no fangs, no speed. By the standards of the nighttime forest, you're a slow, soft, nutritious snack that also happens to be anxious about it. And it gets worse. Almost every large predator of the ancient world is most active at dawn, at dusk, and through the night. Nature split humans and predators into different shifts of the day. In daylight, the territory was yours. After dark, you turned from the hunter into a fairly nutritious meal for something with far better night vision than you. And this wasn't some abstract philosophical fear. It was accurate. Anthropologists who study modern groups still living close to the ancient way of life keep noticing the same grim pattern. The person who wanders away from the fire into the dark at night gets killed by predators far more often. And this didn't stay in the Stone Age. In 1898, in Tsavo in Kenya, just 2 lions killed dozens of workers on a railway construction site over a few months and shut the whole project down until a hunter finally tracked both of them. 2 animals. 2. They dragged an entire empire with its rifles and its trains into the exact same ancient terror your ancestor felt beside a dying fire. The fear of the dark isn't a quirk or a weakness of the nerves. It's survival statistics, read off of reality and wired straight into an emotion. And here's the first thing worth sitting with. That prickle you feel walking to your car across a dark, empty parking lot, that's not a childish leftover you should be embarrassed about. It may be the most accurate emotion our species ever produced. It just doesn't have a target anymore. The animal is gone, but the crosshairs stayed. But that creates a real problem. If the fear is correct, if the dark really is dangerous, how do you live with that fear every single night without losing your mind? Because a brain that's terrified for 14 hours straight doesn't last long. It burns out, it breaks down, it can't sleep, and it can't think. And the very first tool humans invented against this wasn't a weapon. It was a feeling of safety. manufactured on purpose. The usual story about fire is that it kept us warm and cooked our food, but its deepest job wasn't in the stomach and it wasn't in the warmth. It was in the head. A campfire creates a circle around itself, about 30 feet across, that a predator won't step into. 30 feet. And inside it, you're a human being again, while outside it, you're prey. And what holds that line isn't the flame physically driving the animal back. A predator whose entire evolution is built around hunting in the dark runs into a bright, moving, baffling thing and backs off, it throws him. It's an anomaly. So for the first time in history, humans had a place where, at night, they didn't have to be afraid. Inside the circle, you're safe. Outside it, you're meat again. But here's what almost nobody says about fire. Your brain drilled this connection for so long, hundreds of thousands of years, that it learned it down to the bone, so deep that it's still running in you right now. In 2014, the anthropologist Christopher Lynn showed in the lab what your body already knows. In people calmly watching a fire, blood pressure drops and the body slides into something close to a light meditation. You can stare into a fire for an hour and feel everything unclench. This isn't an aesthetic preference. It's an inherited all-clear signal. If there's fire, we made it through another night, you can let the tension go. And now the uncomfortable part. That same ancient logic, light in the dark means safety, is exactly why you fall asleep with your face in a screen. Your brain sees a glowing rectangle in a dark room and concludes, great, somebody lit a fire, we can relax. It forgot to ask you, except this fire is a fake. It's the wrong color, and later we'll see exactly what it does to you because of that. But as a security system, fire had one fatal flaw. It goes out, and a person alone behind a burned down fire is just prey again. So the second tool against fear wasn't a thing at all. It was other people. Now here's something you wouldn't expect. A cave was prime real estate, not because ancient people had a thing for damp stone, but because it had one entrance, one way in. You're back against the rock, you know where the danger is coming from. It was the first security system in history. It took an endless threat coming from every direction in the dark and narrowed it down to a single spot you could watch. And inside, people slept pressed together. Yes, for the warmth, but not only that. Up close, you can hear each other breathe. And if something comes in during the night, everyone knows instantly. And here's where ancient humans did their most elegant thing. In 2017, researchers spent 20 nights tracking the sleep of the Hadza people in Tanzania with sensors that catch the smallest movement. Across all 20 nights, there was exactly one short stretch, about 18 minutes total, when absolutely everyone was asleep at the same time. 18 minutes over 20 nights. The rest of the time, somebody was always either awake or in a very light sleep, and nobody was assigned to it. No one drew the short straw and had to stand guard. It happened on its own, because people are different. In any group, there's the light sleeper who jolts awake at a sound, the early bird, the one who can't fall asleep before midnight, the older person who wakes up several times a night. Put them together, and someone is always half awake. The fear of the dark dissolved because it was spread across different bodies. Everyone carried a small piece of the group's watchfulness, and no one had to suffer it alone. And here's where it hits you directly. You feel calmer sleeping next to someone, and more anxious alone in a quiet room. You might chalk that up to weakness or to being needy. Really, your nervous system is just asking the same question it's asked for 300,000 years. Is there someone else here awake enough to catch what I might sleep through? In an empty, dark room, the answer is no, and the alarm never fully shuts off. You're not clingy, you're just filling out the shift roster. Your urge to sleep beside someone has nothing to do with being childish. It's a night watch roll call 300,000 years old. So fire held the dark at arm's length, and the group meant you never faced it alone. But every night there was a stretch when the fire burned low, the talking died down, and a person was left conscious, in the dark, alone with their own fear. And what humans did with those hours turned out to be maybe the most important thing our species ever invented. And here's where it gets really interesting. The extra hours fire handed out weren't spent staring blankly into the dark. People used them, and we actually know how. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner recorded conversations among the Juhoansi Bushmen of the Kalahari and compared day with night. During the day, about 80% of the talk was practical: who's hunting where, what's ripe, who's fighting with who. But at night, around the fire, about 81% of the conversation turned into stories, songs, myths, talk of far-off places, and how the world came to be. And here's why that matters. If you look at it through fear, a story is a way of digesting a terrifying world. You take the dark, the predators, the death, everything that knots up your gut, and you give it names, characters, an explanation, a meaning. Something frightening, shaped into a story, gets smaller. Now you can hold it in your head. You can pass it on. You can even laugh at it. The fire, with its stories, wasn't just chatter around the flames. It was the world's first recycling of fear into meaning. The way a species that had every reason to freeze in terror instead sat down in a circle and laughed. Dreams belong here too. And they're an important link in the chain. Every night, a person dropped into a world where dead relatives showed up, where monsters chased you, where you visited places that don't exist. And in the morning, they had not one scrap of neuroscience to explain it. No wonder ancient people took dreams as real messages, as windows into another world, as signs. The night was already a time lived on the edge. The sun, the thing that made the world visible and alive, seemed to die every evening, sinking underground, and you had to wait it out, almost pray it back. Every sunrise was a victory won back from the dark. Fear made the night sacred. And you, by the way, still do the exact same thing, just in a broken way. That spiral at 3 a.m, where you're replaying that joke that landed badly at somebody's birthday back in 2014, or rehearsing disasters that will never happen, that's the same machine, grinding fear into a story. Only you have no fire and no circle of faces to hand the story to. Your ancestor said his fears out loud to living people in the firelight, and the fear shrank. You tell yours to a dark ceiling, alone, and it grows. Fire, the group, stories. 3 tools that together should have made the night bearable. But there's one more layer of fear, the one I saved for last, because it's the most unexpected. Even when everything else was working, ancient humans still didn't sleep the way you think, and still weren't completely at peace in the dark. And this layer is the one that explains your 3 a.m. directly. Sleep is the moment when every defense against fear fails at once. A sleeping body is helpless. And evolution didn't let sleep become a total surrender. The watchfulness that was spread across the group lived inside each individual too. Sleep stayed shallow enough that a snapped twig would yank you straight up. You didn't switch off, you turned yourself down and left one ear on guard. Now, let's be honest about sleep, because there's a beautiful but half-true legend going around. The historian Roger E. Kirch dug through hundreds of old sources and found that before the Industrial Age, Europeans slept in 2 rounds. A first sleep of about 4 hours, then an hour or 2 of calm wakefulness in the dark, then a second sleep until dawn. In 1992, the psychiatrist Thomas Wehr tested it in a lab. He gave people 14 hours of darkness a night, and within a few weeks, they settled into that same split rhythm on their own. And in the gap between the two, they were oddly peaceful, almost like after meditating. Great legend, but if that's all you tell people, you're lying. Because in 2015, researchers studied the sleep of groups living without electricity near the equator, the Hadza, the San, the Chimane, and found no split at all. They fell asleep about 3 hours after sunset, slept in one block, and woke before dawn. So which is true? It looks like there was never one single natural sleep. The most likely explanation for the difference is this. The two-part sleep shows up where the nights are long. In winter, at high latitudes, in a historical Europe with its endless dark evenings. When you've got 14 hours of darkness, you don't need to sleep all of it in one go, so the body splits the night in two. Near the equator, where the night is short year-round, there's no split. If that's right, then sleep was simply bending to conditions. But what all the versions share is that it was never that dead, defenseless, 8-hour block you keep chasing. Human sleep always kept one foot on the floor. And here's the price of that. And at the same time, the answer to your personal question from the beginning. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't insomnia. It's a perimeter check. In that moment, the watch system kicks in and does exactly what it was built to do. Check whether everything's quiet. For your ancestor, it was perfect. Wake up, listen, hear nothing, drift calmly back to sleep. You wake up, the system checks your surroundings and finds nothing. No leopard, no group, no fire. Just a dark ceiling and a phone within reach. And off you go. By 4 a.m, you've diagnosed yourself with 3 diseases and a rare vitamin deficiency. The alertness has nowhere to go. It can't find a target, so it curls inward and turns into anxiety about nothing. It's just a night watchman walking a flashlight through a building that has nothing left to guard. And this is where all of it leads, to the big turn of our story. If fear built this entire apparatus and the predators are now gone, then by rights, you should have inherited the calm and left the fear behind. We did the exact opposite. We kept the fear and threw out every tool that used to handle it. And here's the great turn of the whole story. We beat the dark, and the victory was total. In the 1600s, cities started putting up street lamps. Paris, under Louis XIV, was one of the first, and it's telling that it was done to fight crime. Even as he conquered the night, man was still at war with fear. Then came gas lamps. Then, in 1879, Edison brought the electric light bulb to market. Add locks, police, walls, 1,000 miles without a single animal. By any measure, you are the safest human in the history of the species. No predators, a lock on the door, and you still can't sleep. Your ancestor slept 20 feet from a leopard. You can't fall asleep in a locked, quiet bedroom. Why? Because fear isn't an accountant recalculating your real risks. It's ancient machinery, and it simply doesn't know the threat is gone. And worst of all, we took apart every single thing that used to calm it down. We didn't beat fear. We just switched off everything that used to treat it. We put the fire out, and where we left any light, it's now the wrong color. Remember that fake fire from your phone? The blue light of a screen at 11 at night gets read by your body as high noon, and it shuts down the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. The thing that on a deep level reads as safety is, on a biochemical level, screaming at your body that it's the middle of the day. We broke up the group. Now a person routinely sleeps alone, and the nervous system reads that solitude as exposure, as sleeping out in an open field. We stopped saying our fears out loud to living faces by a fire and started scrolling through them alone at 2 a.m. And we flattened sleep into one rigid block, dictated not by the dark, but by a meeting at 9 a.m. So when the ancient watch wakes you at 3, there's nowhere to sink into, no calm gap to fall through, and all that's left is the panic that something's wrong with you. And here's the proof that the whole old system is intact and just waiting under the surface. People who go camping for a week with no artificial light find their internal clock has shifted back by almost 2 hours. Their body starts getting ready for sleep at sunset again, the moment you give it real darkness. The program never went anywhere. And the small ghosts everyone recognizes are that same program, quietly rebuilding the fire and the sleeping group out of whatever modern junk is lying around. The rain sounds you fall asleep to. Maybe it's because, for your ancestor, rain meant a predator couldn't smell you or hear you. A night under the sound of water was safer. The body of another person in the bed, The TV left on, just so the room isn't quiet and dark. Every one of those habits is you, relighting an ancient fire with whatever's within reach. Let's go back to where we started. 3 in the morning, you've just woken up for no reason, lying in the dark and listening. The thing that woke you isn't a disorder, and it isn't a glitch. It's the oldest, most loyal part of you, doing the job it was born for, standing watch. It doesn't know the animal beyond the wall is gone. It's still guarding a body that has had nothing to fear for a very long time. And here's the saddest part. Your ancestor was more afraid than you are and slept better than you do because he had a fire, a circle of bodies breathing beside him, and a story he could hand his fear to. You have a locked door and a phone, and somehow those are lonelier. So the next time you snap awake at 3 in the morning, on edge in the dark, don't grab for the phone right away to make the feeling go away. Lie there a minute. This alertness is 300,000 years old. It kept every one of your ancestors alive for exactly as long as it took to make you. So let it finish its rounds and tell it quietly that the shift is over. Nobody's coming. You can rest. The leopard is gone, and the part of you that's still lying there listening has been standing this post for 300,000 years and doesn't know the watch was called off long ago.